Welcome to the very first Tyler and Eli Fantasy Football Tips podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Belowski. Let me introduce to you our co-host. He has played for the Steelers for 3 years. Hall of Fame numbers with field goal blocks. 18 career field goal blocks. 15 career personal fouls, hand to the face penalties. I introduce to you the best football player ever. His career was cut short though because he disobeyed mommy and did not shovel the driveway. I give you Eli Belowski.
I don't play on the Steelers. I just like the Steelers, Dad.
What? What are you talking about?
I just like the Steelers.
All right. Cool. Anyways, I'm Tyler Belowski. That's Eli Belowski, and we're going to give you the best fantasy football tips out there. So this week, actually, before we even start, we should introduce ourselves. How do we do it? I've been playing fantasy sports for about 20 years now. Football, baseball, hockey, golf, you name it, I've played it. Really picked up football over the last 10 years. So I kind of know what I'm talking about, I think. Eli, however, this is his first hardcore year. He played last year with me. He was on my team, co-manager. He did win the family league, though. Crushed everyone. He took home the trophy, his literal home. So he took home the trophy for us, or for himself, I guess. So he's only 8.5, 9 years old, but don't let the age despair you from his knowledge of fantasy football tips. He is top notch. He knows what he's talking about. He's doing the research. He knows the numbers. He knows the players. For example, he just got done with a mock draft. This is who he took in order. First pick, Odell Beckham Jr. Second pick, T.Y. Hilton. Third pick, Golden Tate. Fourth pick, C.J. Anderson. Fifth pick, Lamar Miller. Quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, and his tight end was Lavarius Green, right?
Yeah. Except I.
So that is his experience right there. He knows what he's doing with fantasy football tips. So this week and for the rest of June, we're going to be breaking down each team, each player who is draft worthy. You ready?
Yep.
All right,
let's do it.
Let's do it. This week we're going to go with the AFC East and AFC North. So first up is the New England Patriots. And obviously the Pats. Obviously we're going to go start with Tom Brady. We're going to talk about a little bit about each player. We're only spending about 30 minutes in this podcast. We're going to keep it short because no one wants to listen to us talk for an hour, hour and a half. Throw it down when you're mowing the yard. Throw it down when you're doing dishes. Drive home or to work. Keep it short and sweet. We're just two guys talking football. That's all we're doing.
Yep.
All right, so Eli, knock it off. Tom Brady. Where would you draft him? Would you start him? Would you have him even on your team? Go for it.
I would draft him in the middle of the draft.
It's like 6 to 8 round, maybe?
Yeah, 6 to 8, 6 to 9, maybe.
Okay.
And I would have him as a number 1.
Number 1 quarterback. Starting quarterback, right?
Yep, starting quarterback.
Excellent. I think I have the same thing. I would definitely draft him. I would not be scared of his 4-game suspension, even though there is talk about him not having 4 games, but you still got to draft Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. You got to take him.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And if you can get him at round 6 to steal, if you get him at round 8, 9, if he's there, take him. Definitely take him.
Yep, that's right.
Let's move on to wide receivers. First up, Danny Amendola. I would have drafted him, but he just had foot surgery. He's useless now. I won't even touch him. They brought in Craig Hodge or Chris Hansen and Nate Washington, so I won't even touch Amendola anymore. I really only touch the next player we're going to be talking about,
which is Julian Edelman.
Yeah, we had him last year on the team. Did great for us.
Yep, really great. Except for at the end when he had that, I think, hand surgery.
Yeah, he broke his hand, I believe. Yeah, you're right. Yep. So, you would draft him, obviously. We like him.
Yep.
You would draft him. Where would you draft him at?
I would draft him early, like the 3rd or 4th round.
3rd, 4th round. Yeah, I have him 3, 4, 3, 5.
Number 1.
A number 1 receiver. Wow. I would take him probably as a number 2 receiver. I think you could probably get DeAndre Hopkins type of receiver before Edelman then. But yeah, Edelman is really good. I would definitely take him as a 1. Weak number 1, a strong number 2.
Yeah.
All right, Moving on to Dion Lewis, running back, draft worthy.
Yeah, I think so. I would draft him mid, as my number 2 running back.
Number 2 running back. I have him saying he would be a very weak number 1 running back. So if you can avoid taking him as your number 1, I would avoid taking him as your number 1. Number 2 is a good spot. Rounds 5 through 7, I would say, is a good landing spot for him. And then probably the second, if not the best person to take off the New England Patriots this year is the tight end Gronk. All you have to do is just say Gronk, and we know who we're talking about.
Yeah,
definitely draft worthy. A lot of people were taking him in the first rounds. I honestly think that you could probably get maybe someone a little better than Gronk because he's always injured. He's injured prone.
Yeah,
so
he does have some injuries.
He is definitely injured. So if you want to wait on him second, third round, you could probably pick up a better points receiver or even running back than Gronk. But Gronk is a solid number 1 round, solid number 1 tight end.
I would draft him. If you do get to draft him, I would draft him in like 4 or 5 rounds.
The 4th or 5th round, you think it'll last that long?
Actually, well, maybe 3rd or 4th.
Maybe if they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are definitely taking first, second round.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if he's there in the 3rd or 4th round, definitely scoop him up.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a good steal.
That would be a great steal for sure. All right, moving on to the Miami Dolphins. Now, on our promo last week about our podcast, I mentioned Ryan Tannehill, quarterback. I don't want him. I want nothing to do with him. I think he's going to regress or do worse than he did last year. He's got a new coach, means a new system, and they're just a mess this year. I don't think the Dolphins are going to do a whole lot as a team, anyways. So I personally would not draft him. I probably wouldn't even use him as a bye-week filler. I would just leave him on the free agency and just move on from him. What do you think about Ryan Tannehill?
I would actually draft him late as my number 2.
As a number 2, so a backup.
Yeah,
a backup
quarterback.
And a bye-week filler.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to, I only think of one wide receiver for the Dolphins is Jarvis Landry.
Yep, Jarvis Landry.
I think he's a solid number 2.
Yes,
definitely a flex. If he's a solid number 2, he's probably going to be a flex position.
Yeah.
I would see him going probably rounds 4 or 5, I'd say.
I actually would draft him in the mid. I'm not sure if he would last that long, but I would draft him mid if you can get him as your number 2. Maybe a flex. It depends on what wide receivers you have.
Excellent. And it all depends on how Ryan Tannehill goes. Ryan Tannehill goes, then he's gonna go. Ryan Tannehill gets a lot of points, then Landry's gonna get a lot of points.
Yeah, sometimes, a lot of times, the quarterback decides how much points a wide receiver gets.
Exactly. And we should take a break right here and say that because Eli is starting his first full year of fantasy football, he's going to be giving tips for those who are starting themselves or maybe first or second year players because he's learning himself, so he's going to pass on little tips like that. As I'm a little more experienced, so I can dive into a little more experienced talks. So take both of our sides, both of our opinions, because he is learning, so he's going to break it down a lot more simpler than I would. So definitely listen to what he has to say. All right, so getting back to the Dolphins and the running back, Jay Ajayi. At first, I did not like him at all, and I'll tell you what, I listened to a whole bunch of podcasts like ESPN's Fantasy Focus with Matthew Berry and Field Yates and Stephon Bell. I have to say, I still don't like him. I don't want him. I don't want him on my team. I wouldn't even trade for him. But that doesn't mean he's not going to produce. I think he's a weak number 2, maybe a flex, and you could probably pick him up probably the 4th to 6th round area. What do you think about Ajayi?
I would not draft him.
All right, so that's 2 people not drafting him, all right?
If you were to pick him up or trade him or whatever, a good trade, it would have to be a good trade. I would have him as a bye-week filler, or if your flex is injured or something, then put him in the flex.
Perfect. Yeah. So a bye-week filler, you would have him on the bench then.
Yes.
But
bench.
you would only trade for him and not pick him up off the free agency. You wouldn't draft him.
No, I would not draft him.
Okay. All right, and then I think that's about it for the Dolphins. I mean, they have the tight end Jordan Camry, but
Kenny Styles.
Oh, Kenny Styles, but neither one of them are really draft worthy, right?
No,
I wouldn't.
Not really.
So let's move on to the New York Jets. Quarterback It's TBA, to be announced.
To be announced. Yep, we don't know.
Yeah, Geno Smith is on contract, and the rookie, I can't think of his name right now, Christian Hackenbach, but also Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yep.
They're still talking to him, so hopefully they can bring him in. If they do that, then I think it's going to help everyone, the receivers, Marshall and Decker, and even Forte, blow up. If he doesn't come back and they have Geno Smith, the whole team is done. All the fantasy players are done.
Yep.
So moving on to Brandon Marshall, wide receiver. I think, you go first. Brandon Marshall.
I would draft him round 5 to 6 as an okay number 2 and a strong flex.
Strong flex, yes. Well, I've been burnt many times with Brandon Marshall, so I'm never going to draft him again. But I think he's a weak number 1 and a solid number 2 because he's going to catch a lot of balls. I think you could probably pick him up 3rd or 4th round. I'm going to stay away from him, so if you're listening, you can have him. I would take Eric Decker as a solid number 2 and obviously a flex then. And I think you can get him at 7 through 9 from what I've been seeing in the mock drafts. I like him because he'll get the ball. He'll get a lot of balls thrown to him more than Marshall because Marshall will get double team. So he'll get a lot of points because if you play point per reception, he'll catch 100 balls. That's 100 points right there.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I like Eric Decker only if they can sign Fitzpatrick back. Geno Smith, like we said, he's done.
Nope, don't draft him at all.
Don't draft him at all. All right, so I think we're on the same page with Decker. So running back, Matt Forte. We had him last year on our team. He did great until he got hurt.
Yep.
But
that burned us.
It did burn us. But we still came in second, though.
We came in second. He helped us in that.
So Matt Forte, I think he's a weak number 1, a solid number 2. If you go wide receiver, 2 wide receivers, your first 2 picks, he's still there for a solid number 1. If you're going to take him your first running back, I think you could probably do better, but he would be a solid number 2. You could definitely pick him up rounds 2 through 4 if you really wanted to. I don't think you should take him any higher than that. What do you think about Matt Forte?
I think you should draft him early.
Early?
Yep.
Like rounds 1 through 3?
Well, yeah, actually. He's a good number 1, I think.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he's a good number 1.
Would,
and if Fitzpatrick comes back, then he's going to get a lot of catches because he likes to catch.
He does catch a lot of balls. Now, you said you would take him in the first round. Would you take him over, say, Ezekiel Elliott?
No, I would not take him over Ezekiel Elliott. But if you had Ezekiel Elliott as your number 1, then Forte would go along good as a number 2, like Ezekiel Elliott and Matt Forte. Those are 2 really good running backs to start.
Okay. So in the first round, though, you would have to skip over somebody. So would you skip over like a Davy Johnson to take Matt Forte? Would you skip over Adrian Peterson? Or would you want to try to bump that back down to like a second, third round? I mean, you're going to have to bump one of those really good guys off the number 1 tier for Matt Forte.
Yeah, I think that Adrian Peterson is gonna be not bad, but not really good. I think he's gonna be equal to Matt Forte this year.
Okay. All right, that's good. All right, so now we're going to get to the Buffalo Bills for the last team in the AFC East. But before we start with the Buffalo Bills, we do have to mention our very first sponsor. First podcast, first sponsor. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yep.
And our first sponsor is GJP Italian Eatery here in Oswego, New York, in the J.C. Penney Plaza. The only reason they're sponsoring the Bills this year is because the owner, Larry, is a huge Bills fan. So I said, hey, Larry, let's put the 2 together. I know you like football. I know you like the Bills. We all love pizza. So call Larry up and the boys up over at GJP in Oswego at 207-1000, and he'll hook you up with the best pizza in town. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays, they have larges for $9, $49, and 60-cent wings. You can't beat that.
Nope, you certainly can't.
You can't. So every time we mention the Bills, We're going to mention GJP and Oswego. And Larry told me if you go over to GJP and tell Larry you heard this podcast, the Tyler and Eli Fantasy Football Podcast Tips Podcast, he's going to give you a free slice of pizza and a fountain drink for listening to our podcast.
That's pretty good.
That's awesome. So go over and see Larry and the crew over at GJP in Oswego, New York, and get your free slice of pizza. So, Buffalo Bills, quarterback Tyrod Taylor. Drafting him, not drafting him, where's he going?
I think I would draft him, but only in the 10 to 12 rounds.
So the late rounds. So
Yep.
probably as a backup.
Backup, and probably bye-week filler.
Bye-week filler. Yes, I too would think he's a good bye-week filler, but I would not draft him. And I think you'd have to really see who he's playing during that bye week. If he's playing the Patriots, probably not. But if he's playing the Browns, I could see him tearing it up on the Browns. He's going to go as far. He's going to take the team is going to go just as far as he's going to go, just like Ryan Tannehill. He's good. He's in a contract year, so he's going to play his hardest. But I think he may take some pressure, build some pressure because of that. He's going to try too hard, and because he's going to try too hard, he's trying too hard because they're going to probably lose Sammy Watkins for a couple games because he just had foot surgery.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
So going on to Sammy Watkins, would you draft him now that he has a foot surgery, and would you still draft him because of that?
I would still draft him.
I think you have to. I think you still have to and take that chance and put him on the bench, right, for a couple of weeks.
Yep. I would see him going at I thought he would go at round 6, but I changed my mind. He's not going to go that late. He's going to go probably 4, probably round 4 or 5, maybe.
Yeah,
3 to 5.
I said the same thing. He's a solid. He was a solid number 1. I think now he gets bumped down to a solid number 2 and a flex, going 3 through 5 because of the injury.
Yes.
Now, for as far as the rest of the receiving crew, you have Robert Woods and a whole bunch of nobodies. So I don't think Robert Woods is really draft worthy unless he becomes number 1. Is because if Sammy keeps getting hurt, it's his foot. You're running on your feet. So that injury could keep coming back, and Robert Woods could take off. So I would wait for him, maybe keeping him on the deep bench, maybe on the flex. He would be a flex for sure.
I would not draft Robert Woods.
No, I definitely want to draft him.
If you were to trade or pick him up on the free agency, I would have him as a bye-week filler.
Yeah. Unless Watkins goes down and he becomes the number 1.
Yep, but if he does become the number 1, my tip is to give him a little time. If he starts blowing up, then start him.
Kind of like Doug Baldwin last year. Baldwin was horrible the first 6-7 weeks, and then boom, he took off.
Yeah, for us.
Yes. Yeah, we had Doug Baldwin also. All right, so running back LaShawn McCoy. This is his second year in Buffalo now. Rex Ryan likes to run the ball. I think he's a solid number 2. I guess you could run him as a number 1. He's a weak number 1. And you could easily pick him up at 2 and 3, but I think if you can wait 4 or 5 or 6, that'd probably be a better pick for you.
Yeah, I would draft him 3, 4, or 5 rounds. As a solid number 2, maybe a flex.
Well, if he's a 2, he's going to definitely be a flex then.
But
the thing is, though, a lot of the times, because it's a passing league now, your flex is most likely going to be a wide receiver, I would say.
Yeah,
unless you have a really good matchup. Like, say the Bills are playing a weak defense of the Browns.
Or the Raiders.
Or the Raiders, so you could probably squeeze them in there if your flex receiver isn't so strong, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now, you have a segment you want to be doing later tonight or later in the podcast or down the road called Sleepers and Busts. I think it's a great idea. We'll be doing that. We'll jump right into it now with your sleeper of Charles Clay. You have him as our pre-show prep. We're talking about Charles Clay, and you had him as a sleeper. Okay, why do you have him as a sleeper?
Because since Watkins has his injured foot, Charles Clay is probably going to be the best. He is going to be the best receiver because LaShawn McCoy can't really catch, and Robert Woods, don't worry about him.
Don't worry about him if Charles Clay is on the field. And because he's good in the red zone. He's going to probably catch a lot of touchdown passes now.
Yeah, yep.
So don't draft him. Watch him on free agency, though, and keep him on your bench because he's going to sleep if Watkins is still hurt the rest of the season.
I would actually draft him mid.
Oh, you would?
But if he does start to explode, then start him as your number one. But just in case, keep him on the bench for 1 or 2 games.
Wait for that explosion to go?
Yep.
But would you draft him as a number one? Or would you draft him as a backup?
It all depends on what tight ends are there. If Jimmy Graham's there, then I would draft Jimmy Graham first, and then as your number 2 tight end, I would draft Charles Clay.
Okay.
If he was there,
right.
Which he probably would.
He probably would be because he's a sleeper.
Yeah.
Okay, sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that wraps up the AFC East. We're going to go over to the AFC North. And I have a great player that I have as my sleeper, and we'll get to him at the very end. But first, we'll go with probably the best team I think is the Steelers in the North. Now, my favorite team's the Giants. You like the Steelers.
Yeah.
But the best team probably in the North, the Steelers. Big Ben, I think we can say it for ourselves. He's a solid number 1.
Yep, draft him early.
Draft him early.
Well, draft him like 4, 5, or 6.
5 or 6, 4, 5 or 6.
4, 5, or 6.
If you really like him and want him.
Yeah.
If not, you could probably wait to 6, 7, or 8 probably.
Yeah, if he's there. But if he's there and there's no other good guy, then draft him.
Take him. I know you really like him. You'll probably take him number 1.
Yeah.
You would take him very first pick?
No. I would take him as my number 1.
As your number 1. Yeah. I know. All right, and probably next is the number 1 overall pick, most likely in most leagues, wide receiver Antonio Brown.
Probably the best wide receiver in the league right now.
Yeah, him and Odell Beckham Jr. 1, 2. You can put them in any order. I would probably say Brown first, even though I like the Giants. If you're not taking him in the first 3 picks, you shouldn't even be playing fantasy football because he's a top 3, if not top 1 player. It's probably Brown, Beckham, and then Bell are your top 3 picks.
Yeah.
Though we did see a draft tonight. Hopkins went number 1, and Bell and
Hopkins went number 2.
Number 2. It was Brown, Hopkins,
and then
Beckham, and Bell. Yeah, Ezekiel Elliott was up there high too. That was kind of weird.
Yeah, their first round. Some of the guys' first round picks were like, why are you drafting those guys?
They must have been drafted because they really like the team or something.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so the second wide receiver in Pittsburgh we have is Marcus Wheaton. I don't really know a whole lot about him, so I probably wouldn't draft him. Though Big Ben's throwing him the ball, so if you can pick him up as a free agent, put him in as a flex for a bye week filler, then I say go for it. If you're going to draft him, I'd say maybe wait for the later rounds, 10 through 13 or whatever, or anything later. He wouldn't be a starter. I don't think he's that strong.
I like the Steelers, so I know a lot about him. I've seen Marcus Wheaton play, and I think he plays good.
Yeah.
I think he's a solid 2 and a really good flex.
Okay. All right.
I would draft him like let's say probably 9 through 11.
9 through 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's not bad. But listen, guys, I love the fact that we are agreeing to disagree and disagreeing to agree because that's how we are. I mean, we're just guys of our own opinions. We're talking about players. I don't really know him. He knows him. I don't really like him. He likes him. So our subtitle of the show is, whose side are you picking? Eli's side, Tyler's side, no one's side. Pick a side. I'd probably go with Eli. He knows what he's talking about with the Steelers. Running back, Le'Veon Bell, draft number 1. Running back, if you can't get him first 4 picks, once again, you shouldn't be playing fantasy football.
Yeah, that's right.
Bell's a beast. You do have to kind of be worried because he did get hurt last year.
Yeah,
so that could roll over.
Yeah.
Maybe pick up his backup, D'Angelo Williams, who tore it up.
Yeah, he was really good last year when he was the number 1.
Williams?
Yep, D'Angelo Williams.
Yeah, when he came in, he tore it up. I think it was a great move for him when he left the Panthers to go to Pittsburgh, even though he did kind of play the same role. but he was a solid. That's a solid backup. Pick him up because Bell's going to probably miss 1 or 2 games, maybe 3 games with an injury.
Yeah.
Pick up DeAngelo Williams off the waiver wires. I mean, you could draft him if you wanted to, but you probably get better backups. Actually, be that guy who steals a handcuff. Handcuff is the backup. It's just another name for a backup is a handcuff. So be the guy who steal a handcuff. That way you can trade him for later.
Yeah.
All right, so tight end. You like this guy a lot. I'm starting to get on board with him. Who's the tight end for the Steelers?
Ladius Green. I think
Ladius.
Ladius. I don't
Just look up Green for the Steelers.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Last name Green.
Last name Green. We mess up names. We try our hardest. We do apologize. But we're giving you the big names, so you should be able to find out who these guys are. Green for the Steelers. I think he's a number 1 tight end.
Yeah, he's definitely a number 1 tight end. At first, I had him. I didn't know about him much, actually, because this is his first year on the Steelers.
Yeah, he's coming
being a number 1, at least.
Oh, yeah, he came from San Diego last year, backing up Antonio Gates.
Which he should have, because Antonio Gates is bad. I think.
You think he's bad? He's going to be
Yeah.
bad. Well, we'll get to him in a couple weeks. We'll talk about Antonio Gates in a couple weeks. I think you can get Landry probably rounds 7 through 10, unless you really like him and reach for him. But save your draft picks, get a better wide receiver, better running back, and then pick up your tight end. Because tight ends, you have 2 or 3 tight ends that are superstars, and then you have the rest. You have Gronk, you have Jordan Reed. And if you want to put in Greg Olsen there, I think you should.
Yeah.
After that, if you don't get those guys, you can wait on tight ends. But Green, it would be a great tight end pickup for you.
Yeah, I have him drafting mid.
Mid, so it's about 6 to 8.
Yeah, where you would draft your today I did a mock draft and I drafted what was my tight end? The tight end for the Bears.
Oh, Zach Miller.
Zach
Miller.
So draft Green where you would draft Zach Miller. So right in the middle where you draft.
Yeah, I think you picked him up 8 or 9 round. I think.
Yeah,
right around
8
there.
or 9 in the mid. So yeah, mid.
Mids,
And
yeah.
I have him as a number 1.
He is definitely number 1. Yes. Or if you wanted to, you have 2 tight ends. Say you pick up Greg Olsen, you can steal Green, put him as a flex. You can put tight ends at flex most leagues. You put him as a flex. So definitely do that. All right.
I don't really like putting tight ends as my flex.
No.
I like putting if you have a good receiver, put him in. If you don't have a good receiver and you have a good tight end, put him in. If you don't have a good receiver or tight end, put in a good running back.
Sounds good. Some leagues, though, you can put a quarterback in as a flex. That would be good because you can get a lot more points. But that's for a different.
Yeah, because that's. I was in the pre-talk.
Our
prep talk. I was trying to figure out if I should start or bench Brock Osweiler for the quarterback for the Texans. I thought, well, I can't flex him because he's a quarterback.
I see. I saw you were going with that one. Yeah, some leagues you can flex a quarterback, some leagues you can't. I've never played in a league like that, but I know a couple people that have. It's kind of weird. Because usually those leagues you'll have blowouts because 2 quarterbacks don't want a ton of touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the Baltimore Ravens and their quarterback Joe Flacco. What do you think about Flacco from Delaware State?
Actually, I had Flacco drafted mid, but I'm gonna think about that, and I already thought about it.
He thought about it in just like that, 2 seconds.
Yeah. I'm actually not going to draft him mid. I would draft him 9. Well, I don't. Yeah, draft him mid because I don't think you'll get 9 or 10 that late. I don't think you'll get him that late. But start him.
You start him. You have a number 1.
Yep.
I like Joe Flacco. I think he's really good. He's coming off an injury though, but
oh, I did not know that.
No, it's okay. It's all right. When we first made our list a couple weeks ago, prepping for the whole podcast thing, I had him as number 1. But the more I think about it, I think he's a solid 2. So if you want to draft him as a backup, I think you get someone better, like say Eli Manning or Andy Dalton, and then have Flacco as a backup for a bye week filler.
Yeah.
So that means you can either wait for him in the free agency or pick him toward the end of the draft. He'll still be sitting there, or a quarterback like Flacco. So you have. So I would say if you're going to draft him as a backup, and so that's what I say about Flacco. Moving on to wide receivers, I think there's only one solid wide receiver for the Ravens. That's Steve Smith Sr.
Steve Smith Sr. Yeah, I really like him this year, just like I did last year.
Yeah, and his season got cut short last year because of injuries. I think he's a week 2 though. I think he's a solid flex because he is getting older. So with that, you may want to wait until like rounds 9 through 11.
I actually had him drafting like 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, I think that's a good spot for him because if he's not a number 2. Because if he was a number 2, he'd be drafting 5 through 7. But he's not that anymore. He's getting older.
Yeah, actually, I think I wrote him down as a number 2 or flex, but mostly number 2. I still think mostly a number 2 because there's not really any other guys on the Ravens so that can catch the ball.
Yeah,
so,
they are getting pretty thin at wide receiver.
Yeah.
As far as I know, that there are a lot of rookies have been going wide receivers, and we definitely have a couple wide receiver rookies we're going to talk about. But there's only like 2 or 3 wide receivers this year. I think rookie wide receivers are draft worthy. So until we get to our rankings, I'm not really worried about rookie wide receivers. So I think we should just go on to running back Justin Forsett.
Justin Forsett, I actually think he's going. I would actually draft him. I think he's going to be really good because he's the only guy that can run the ball. Because usually in this, like with the Panthers have a running back. They have Jonathan Stewart. He's kind of like Justin Forsett, but they're so good at running because of Cam Newton and Justin Forsett. If
You mean Jonathan Stewart?
Jonathan Stewart, yeah.
Yep.
But Justin Forsett, he's the only guy.
Because Flacco doesn't really run.
No, he doesn't. And if he does, when he does run, he doesn't do it very well.
That's right.
I have him going. Early as a number 1.
As a solid number 1 or a weak number 1?
I'd say like a good number 1.
Yeah, good number 1.
Okay, number 1.
Yeah.
A strong number 2.
Strong number 2. I think I have the same. I have a strong number 2. I think you could probably pick him up probably round 6 through 8. That's a little late because I am kind of worried about him splitting time with a couple of the players on the Ravens. The names are escaping me right now, but I know they did draft a kid this year who a lot of people are in favor of. I don't have his name. I'm sorry. Didn't do my homework.
Sorry.
But as far as anyone else on the Ravens, I don't see there's any value in any of the Ravens. You got Flacco, Steve Smith Sr., and Justin Forsett. Everyone else, just watch them as they go out through the season. I mean, there's no tight ends, and there's no one else.
Dennis Pitt and Pierce. I
Yeah.
have them both drafting late, both benching.
Yeah, Dennis Pete.
Dennis Pitt.
Bench him or pick him up on the waivers, I think. All right, moving on to I'm not exactly sure what the countdown is. I forgot to start my clock, so if we're going to go run long, we run long. If we run short, we run short. But it's the first one, so we can do what we want, right?
Yeah,
it's our podcast.
Yeah.
We'll go 6 hours if we want.
But we're not going to go 6 hours.
No. So as far as the Cincinnati Bengals, Andy Dalton, I think he's a weak number 1. If he's there, you can take him. But take him in the later rounds, especially with Eli Manning still there. I'd take Eli over Dalton. But
yeah, me too.
he is a weak number 1, so you could probably get him at 8, 9, 10, I think. He does get knocked down a rung or 2 because Tyler Eifert, the tight end, did have foot surgery. Once again, another foot surgery, so that takes a target away from him. So he still has AJ Green to throw the ball to, Jeremy Hill running back, and Giovanni Bernard to throw to. But Eifert,
Genovi Bernard.
Giannavi. I don't know. Bernard. We'll go with Bernard.
Yeah.
But
G.
Bernard. Eifert does hurt his fantasy points for the first couple weeks because he won't be back until like week 3, and by the time he warms up, week 4.
Yeah.
But he is a weak number 1. If that's the last option, take him. If not, put him on your bench and just wait for a bye week. What do you think about that, Andy Dalton?
Yeah, like you said, I would draft him 9 to 11. I actually had him drafting early at first, but that's just
Because of the Eifert injury, that probably knocked him down.
And because I just don't the way in my mock draft the way he went so late. He went so late. It was either Eli Manning or Andy Dalton. I chose Eli Manning. And so now I have him drafting 9 to 11.
You took Eli Manning because that's who you're named after.
No.
Don't tell your mom. We really picked your name because it's Eli Manning. No, I'm just joking. But let's move on to AJ Green and wide receiver.
Wait, I have Andy Dalton as a number one, a good number one. He'll do the job.
He'll get your points, yeah.
He'll do the job as a number one, but he's a really strong number two.
As a backup, keep him as a backup.
So again, just like I think he's just like how I mentioned Brock Osweiler. If you are playing in a league where you can flex quarterbacks, then I think you could do that with Andy Dalton.
That'd be a great flex right there. All right, wide receiver number one, AJ Green. Take him first round if he's there. If not, take him early second round.
Yeah, take him early 1 through 3.
Yeah, he's definitely solid.
If not, then again, don't play.
Don't play fantasy football.
That's just
coming from a kid who's second year. He knows what he's talking about. Don't play anymore if you don't take AJ Green. If you pass on AJ Green.
Yeah.
All right, so we mentioned Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill as running backs. I have them as probably both of them solid number twos.
Yep.
You probably get them both in mid-round if you really wanted to.
Actually, I have them drafted 4.
Fourth, fifth round?
Yeah, 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Both as number 2, solid number 2s, okay number 1s.
Yeah, I mean, they do split time, so that is a problem. I think, I believe they like Jeremy Hill a little bit more, but they're going to split carries. They'll both get their touches throughout the game.
So if you can get both of them, I actually think that would be a good idea.
That would be a good handcuff. Get one and get the other. All right, moving on. We talked a little bit about Tyler Eifert as his injury. I think even though with this injury, he's still a solid number 1 tight end.
Yeah.
At first I had him taking at the 3rd, 4th round, but because of the injury, may want to back up now. Maybe take him 6th or 7th round.
6 to 8, I have him.
6 to 8, yeah.
And that was my original. Yeah. Before I knew about the injury too.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice right there. If you can get them, unless you really like these players we're talking about and you want to take them early, and I told you that Eli during one of your mock drafts, you really like someone, take them. You know what? Because that's who your favorite player is. I like Odell Beckham. If he's there at number 1, I have the number 1 pick. I'm probably going to take him. But the tips, the help, the insiders that we're doing right now, wait on them. You can wait.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the Cleveland Browns. I love Robert Griffin III, quarterback.
No way, man. Not
quarterback.
For me.
I think you're talking sleepers and bust. He is my number 1 sleeper for this year.
No
love
way.
him.
No way.
He's coming on with a small contract, nothing to lose. He is playing for a new coach, a new system. He has everything to prove. He's going to play for a new contract. I think he's going to tear it up this year in Cleveland. They may not win every game. But for fantasy football wise, he's going to get you a lot of points. I wouldn't draft him. I wouldn't start him. He would be a bye-week filler.
Nope.
But I think he's going to be one of those guys you watch by week 4 or 5. He's going to be tearing up, and you're going to go after him, and you're going to be tripping over everyone to get him. I love him this year.
Way.
He was horrible in Washington. He's going to do great this year with Cleveland. He's got 16 wide receivers because I drafted 5 of them as rookies. He's going to be throwing the ball all over the field. He's going to be throwing to the running back, Duke Johnson Jr., the tight end, Gary Barnidge. They're going to be throwing the ball all day long in Cleveland.
Well, yeah, but exactly. You just said that he's got a whole new coach, a whole new system. He's going to have to get used to that, which will probably take about 5 or 6 weeks. 4 to 5 weeks, actually. 4 to 5 weeks.
You're right. That's true. But I think he's going to overcome that. I think
he's not gonna.
He's not gonna. I love him. I love him. I'm not. I just love him. As far as wide receivers in Cleveland, like I said, they're all rookies for the most part.
We didn't have any.
We didn't have any really. Josh Gordon is iffy because he's on suspension still. He's not sure if he can come back. If he's going to come back, take him about the 5th or 6th round because he'll be the number 1 target for Robert Griffin, and he will throw the long ball to Josh Gordon. Reminds me of Deshaun Jackson. He goes deep every time. So Josh Gordon is really the only receiver if he can play. Running back Duke Johnson Jr. What do you think about him? Oh, yeah.
Hold on. I have something to say about the Robert Griffin III.
Okay. Just came to him.
Sometimes I will disagree with Tyler, Daddy, my dad.
Yeah.
Because I think Robert Griffin III is gonna have the same year he did in Washington. Because Washington's better than Cleveland. Receiver-wise.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he had better receivers in Washington, and he couldn't get it done there. And now he's going to go to a Cleveland team that has no wide receivers.
Yep.
See, guys, he knows what he's talking about. That is an excellent point right there. Listen to this man over here, this man-child, this boy-child. Oh, he's flexing his muscles. You can't see it, but he's flexing his muscles. Like, get out of his way. He's going to win the league this year because I'm taking Robert Griffin, and he's not. Duke Johnson, we got to speed this up a little bit. It's getting to that point of we have to wrap it up. Duke Johnson Jr., I like him as a week number 2, a solid flex. He's going to catch a lot of balls. You can probably get him 6th through 8th round.
Yeah, draft him mid.
Draft him mid, yep. Anything else on Duke?
I actually would not. I would not start him because I wouldn't really start. Except for him. I would probably start him as like a strong flex.
A strong flex? Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's definitely a flex.
And but I wouldn't start anyone else on the Browns. Not even. Well, yeah, I wouldn't.
We got tight end. We got tight end Gary Bernard.
No.
I think he's a solid number 1. I don't think I would draft him personally, but you can get him easily 4 through 5. He's gonna catch a lot of balls because Griffin's gonna have to throw to somebody. He's a vet. A lot of quarterbacks who aren't really struggling with the system yet are going to throw to the tight end. He's been around, so I think he would be a good pickup if you can't get anyone else of the Jake Reed or Jordan Reed, Olsen, Gronk type of tight ends. But coming up, we will be talking about our tight. Actually, we just go to our email because that's what we're talking about right now. Got our first email for the podcast. We sent out the promos. We got an email. This email comes from Kurt in Sturgis, South Dakota. I don't know how he heard us, but we're out there. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week we'll get one from Alaska. I don't know. He has a couple questions for us. We're not going to get to them all tonight, but the first one is, "Hey Tyler and Eli, how's it going? A couple questions for you. The first one is, are you guys going to do rankings? If so, when and how?"
We are probably gonna do the rankings in August, I think.
No, we're gonna be doing them in July. Every podcast in July, we're gonna be doing the top 10 to 15 of every position: quarterback, receiver, running back, tight end, and we're gonna give you our opinions on them, break them down a little bit more than what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Plus, that way, we give us time to get our fantasy football magazine so we can learn a little bit more, help you guys with the numbers and stuff like that. So look for our rankings in July on our podcast.
Yep.
The second question would be, if you had the number 1 pick, who would you take with the number 1 pick?
I would take, and I'm not saying this just because I like the Steelers. I like the Steelers, but I'm saying this because he's good. The one, the only Antonio Brown.
The one and only Antonio Brown. I think for myself, if I had the number 1 pick, Kurt, I would take... That's a tough choice. I like Brown. I like Beckham. I would probably take Beckham because I think they have more weapons in New York with Sterling Sharp and Sterling Shepard. And if Victor Cruz can come back, that means Manning can throw the ball around a little bit more. That means Beckham may not have double teams, but Brown has more double teams. So I would probably go Beckham, but you can't go wrong with Brown. You can't go wrong with Bell, but I would go with Beckham Jr.
I think you can go wrong with Bell.
As a number 1 pick?
Yeah.
I guess if
like if Beckham and Brown are gone, then I would take Bell
as number 3 pick.
Number 3,
Yeah.
round 1.
Round 1. I think if you like running backs though, because there are people still who like to draft running backs first round, Bell would probably be your first round pick.
Yeah.
So any of those 3, Bell, Beckham, or Brown.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's gonna do it for us this week. Sorry if we ran a little longer. I forgot to set the timer. Don't forget to go to GJP and Oswego to get your free slice of pizza and fountain drink. But while you're there, buy a pizza, buy a sub. They're the best ones in town.
They also have some wings, too.
They have wings, 60-cent wings Monday through Wednesday. Large $9.49 pizzas Monday through Wednesday. Get over there, support Larry and the guys, shop local. It's awesome there.
Best pizza you can find.
In Oswego, New York. How about all of New York? It's
all
the best
of
pizza.
New York.
All of New York. All right. Any last comments or anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
For like Tyler said, I think this is going to be dedicated to all those that this is like their first, second, maybe third year, and they're still kind of new to the fantasy football things, and they'll have some tips for them to get used to the fantasy football, and then you'll end up like Tyler here with 20 years of experience. Well, about 10 years.
About 10 solid years of football, 20 years of fantasy sports. For me, I just want to say thank you for listening, and I can't wait for next week when we break down the AFC South and the AFC West. And we're going to play a little different game next week. Instead of sleepers and busts, we're going to do Would You Rather. We didn't get to it this week.
Would you rather?
Yeah, we didn't get to it this week, but we're not going to do everything every week. You know why? Because it's our podcast where we do what we want.
Yeah.
So until next week, you can catch us on Facebook at Tyler and Eli's Fantasy Football Tips. That's our Facebook page. You can catch us on Twitter at Tyler Boloski. We haven't made a page yet. I'm going to work on that. You can catch us on YouTube. Just look up Tyler and Eli's Fantasy Football Tips. They're all going to be there. Until next week.
The promos, everything.
Promos, weekly podcast. It's there. Check us out. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.
And I have one last thing. In either July or August, we're going to be teaming up with one of the other fantasy football podcasts.
Oh, out of Rochester. Yeah, we're going to try to hook that up. So yeah, we'll see when it happens. Wait and see what happens with that. Also, you can email us questions, comments, and concerns about your team, about this podcast, what you like, what you don't like, at Tyler and Eli fftips@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Until next week.
And at our Facebook page.
Until next week. We'll see you later, guys.
See ya.